Me Dr. Shana, as opposed to Dr. Flansreich. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what does exercise really do to our brains and how it can specifically help different aspects such as mood, memory, and learning. So we'll kind of go into what we're going to be talking about. So how does exercise affect our brain chemistry? How can exercise improve learning, memory, sleep, and mood? And then how can exercise improve your quality of life? And kind of little tidbits of how to kind of get started if you haven't been exercising, or if you are an avid exerciser, what are ways to kind of up it up a little bit to really increase your aerobic output to get a little bit more out of what you're already doing. So just a little bit of background about kind of what happens. So as we all get older, this leads to a lot of different changes within our body, which I'm sure all of you have felt as we've gotten older. These changes can start to lead to decline in your cognition. And when we say the word cognition, we're talking about your problem-solving skills, your ability to like think on the spot, kind of that short-term memory of, oh, I wanted to do X, Y, and Z today. And as we know, with life, as we get older, it starts becoming, wait, I wanted to do X, Y, and Z, but what was that Z that I wanted to do? So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about cognitive decline as like a broad term for those type of moments in our lives. And then just a little bit of facts. So 60% of older adults do not participate in enough physical activity to maintain or improve our cognitive and brain health. So that's really what we're going to be focusing on in terms of what does it mean? How much physical activity am I supposed to be doing? And when I do physical activity, what is it actually doing to my brain that's improving my memory and learning? And we're going to give you those little tips about kind of how to change your lifestyle to help improve those little moments in your life and improve and just kind of sharpen how we're thinking. And I know we're talking about aging, but it's for all of us, for everybody. We all feel the effects of when we don't exercise, you know, you're not as sharp as you used to be. So we're going to kind of go into the details. Sorry. Okay, so I'm going to give a little bit of an anatomy lesson to kind of get started. And we're going to be talking about the parts of your brain that control our cognition and control our memory and control our learning. So the first big part is something called our hypothalamus. And I like to think the hypothalamus is kind of the gateway into our brain from our body. So it's kind of the big control center. So things are happening in our body, kind of those things are happening in our body, the messages get sent to our brain. And the first place the messages get sent to is the hypothalamus. And then what the hypothalamus does is it kind of figures out what those messages are and what the body wants and kind of tells the brain what it needs to do, or vice versa. The brain wants the body to do something, sends the signals to the hypothalamus, and then the hypothalamus sends out different hormones and things that can change the function of our body. So it's kind of a big control center of our body in terms of our hormones and what we're doing. And it's a big relay system. So one of the important parts when we talk about cognition is the connection between the hypothalamus and something called the hippocampus. So the hippocampus is another part of our brain, and the main function of the hippocampus is our memory. So we're talking about the ability to recall really quickly, but we're also talking about something called memory consolidation. And what that means is the ability to remember something long-term, to make a memory and keep it there, and then be able to recall it in the future. So it's those moments of, I want to do X, Y, and Z, and then a couple of days later being like, wait, what was Z? That's what we talk about when we talk about consolidation. It's the ability to keep that memory there. Also, a big part of memory and learning is that in order to learn something, you have to read it over and over again, and that turns into memory. So the ability to learn new things has a lot to do with how we make and contain our memories. And this all happens in our hippocampus. So there's that big connection between what we want our body to do in the hypothalamus, and then the connection with something called the hippocampus. Another thing that's very interesting, and I think this might link up to if you guys saw the lecture on nutrition, is that a big function of the hippocampus is also how it's called metabolize our energy. And what this means is, how does our brain get enough energy to function? So how does our brain break down the sugar that we eat? And how does that sugar then translate to how our cells and how our brain is functioning? And the hippocampus has a big role in that. And that's what I talk about when I say the fuel gauge, is because the hippocampus can really control how much fuel and how much energy our brain has. And exercise and diet can play a really big role in that. The way it plays a role in that is something called BDNF. So it's brain-derived neurotropic factors. And what these are molecules, so in the hippocampus, that help us with learning and memory. And what these molecules do is they help manage the energy of our cells and of our brain so that we can have better cognitive function. So what these cells do is they help control how much our brain is functioning and how sharp we are. So the more of this molecule you have, the healthier your brain is, because it helps stimulate this really good energy production and helps give our brain this energy, which then helps our memory and helps our learning. So these are the key molecules that a lot of research has found plays a big role in our cognitive abilities and our ability to recall things and our ability to remember things and then turn it into learned behaviors and learned things. And the thing about this molecule that they found through research is that exercise and diet can play a huge role in how much of this molecule is produced, which is really interesting. So they actually done a lot of research on mice, these poor little mice, and they've actually measured for some mice when they exercise, like they put them on like a little exercise wheel, and then some mice don't exercise, and they actually can measure how much of this molecule is in these little mice's brains. It's really interesting. So what does this mean? So we know that we have the hippocampus, which is where our memory and our learning and our energy takes place. And we know we have this little molecule in the hippocampus, which helps the production of this. So how does exercise play a role into this? Well, it's very simple. They found that exercise increases the amount of BDNF production in the brain. And by improving the metabolism of the brain, it overall improves the brain health and the brain's way to send signals to each other, for the brain's way to communicate with the body, and for the brain's way to recall and remember things. Another big thing about the brain, besides the molecule and in general, is that exercise also helps increase the blood flow to the brain. So when we talk about blood flow to the brain, we're talking about something called cerebral blood flow. So the brain has a very specific system of blood flow to all of the brain. And there are certain areas of the brain that get more blood flow than other areas, just naturally in everybody. And as we get older, the blood flow to those specific areas that originally didn't get as much get even less blood flow. And the reason for that is because our arteries that hold the blood aren't really as elastic and as stretchy and as smooth as they used to be. And this happens with everybody, that as we get older, the blood just doesn't flow in those arteries as well as it used to. And this will hit certain areas. And one of those areas is the hippocampus, which has to do with memory and learning. It also hits an area that has to do with executive function, which is a fancy word for like problem solving, and then attention. So what exercise does is it increases something that we call our cardiac output. And what cardiac output is how much our blood, how much blood is pumping, how much blood is our heart able to pump out. All right, so if you have a good heart and a strong heart, you're able to pump out blood more efficiently. And exercise helps strengthen our heart muscle, therefore increasing the amount our blood flow, the amount of blood our heart is able to pump out, and to do it more efficiently, therefore increases the pressure and amount of blood that's going to our brain, which overall improves our brain health because blood carries the oxygen and carries the oxygen and the nutrients that our brain tissue needs to make more BDNF molecule, which also helps nerves heal. So it all works together. So you have the BDNF molecule, which kind of helps brain health on a cell level by healing the cells and making the cells healthier. But then you also have the blood flow, which then gives the brain tissue more oxygen and more energy that it needs, which then allows more production of the BDNF molecule, which also helps heal the nerves. So it all kind of works together in those two ways to help improve our brain health. So here's also another thing. So we're kind of talking a lot about the brain because of how does exercise help the brain? But, the brain communicates with our body. So how does the production of this molecule in our brain, which helps heal the nerves, it helps improve cell energy, and how does the blood flow in our brain then return and affect our body? So the way it does that is we kind of go back to the hypothalamus. So the hypothalamus controls our hormones. And what does that mean? So some of the hormones that our body releases are insulin, which helps with sugar control, something called cortisol, which helps with stress management and stress control, and then estrogen, which helps with our mood, and for women, helps with our bone health. And it helps with strengthening our bones. So if our brain is healthier and we're producing more of this BDNF molecule, and we're getting better blood flow to the brain, which is helping the nerve tissue be healthier, then in response, our brain is telling our body how to control sugar better, how to control our stress better, and how to improve our moods, which then goes back and helps us want to exercise more because we're overall feeling better. So I don't know if you've heard, that term, the vicious cycle, but this is a good vicious cycle that, the more we exercise and the more we produce this molecule in our brain, the healthier our nerves are, the healthier our hippocampus is. Therefore, the signals we get from our brain helps improve our sugar control, helps improve our stress, and vice versa. So I kind of made like a little diagram of this. I think someone's not muted. Just checking through. Okay, so I made a little diagram kind of showing this. So you have exercise and diet. So we're exercising, we're eating healthy. What is that doing? So through our exercise and diet, we're getting better blood flow to our brain. We're getting more nutrients and oxygen to our brain. We're able to produce that BDNF molecule in the hippocampus, which helps our nerves heal and helps our nerves regenerate, which then helps our memory and helps our learning and helps us be able to maintain better attention and helps us to think just a little bit quicker on our feet. So now we know what exercise does for our brain, and does for our hormones. But I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Gallagher to talk a little bit more about how exercise improves with other aspects of our life.
All right, thanks so much, Shana. So here I just want to talk a little bit about the relationship between sleep quality, brain health, and exercise. And it's actually pretty straightforward. And that sleep quality tends to decline with age, with increasing age. And this can leave the brain more vulnerable to toxins. All right. And so you need sleep to remove they're called neurotoxic waste products. So there's waste products that the brain from brain processes will be left over, and you need to get rid of them. Otherwise they'll accumulate in the brain. And so you need good sleep quality in order to do that. And they found that the accumulation of these toxins, they may be related to an increase in Alzheimer's disease and dementia pathology, right? So sleep is really important because normal sleep can then be protective against these dementias because you're getting rid of these toxic waste products. All right. Now, where does exercise fit in? Well, physical activity has been shown to improve sleep quality in older adults. So yeah, you can take, the pill or medication or something like that, and you may need that anyway. But if you get some physical activity, you're also more tired at night, and you're usually going to sleep better. So that's a nice way to improve your sleep quality without having to go to medications. So maybe try that first. But you don't want to exercise too close to bedtime, because then your body is, kind of all riled up and it's hard to calm down. So you want to exercise early enough in the day that you're able to calm down and be relaxed enough to fall asleep in the evening. All right, next slide. All right. So here, just talking a little bit about exercise and mood, and a lot of you know this. A lot of you are exercisers, so you kind of know that when you exercise, you just feel good. You feel a little better about the world, certainly better about yourself, right? And so psychological factors like anxiety and depression can affect your well-being and quality of life, and they also have an effect on cognition. And actually, anxiety and depression have been used to predict cognitive decline in an older population. All right. And so you want to try to control that anxiety and depression and things like that, hopefully with exercise and not with medications if you don't need them. So when we talk about psychological factors, we often talk about mood. But what exactly are we talking about? Whenever I see mood, I'm like, oh, I just don't like that word. It's just not specific enough for me. But really, mood, actually, it does have a definition, and it's been defined as the balance between positive states. So think joy and vigor and alertness even, and negative states such as dissatisfaction and unhappiness, right? And so improvements in mood have been found with regular physical activity by decreasing tension, decreasing anger, and decreasing depressive symptoms. Remember, we've talked about those depressive symptoms and they're linked to dementias. And the exercise, the exercise will also lead to positive changes in perceived vigor and fatigue. So all around, that regular physical exercise is going to give you some, feel-good hormones, basically, is what it's doing. Next slide, please. So talking about exercise, we wanted to put in a little bit about exercise and psychosocial factors. And I think the COVID crisis kind of brought this to light, and that we, so many people were alone for long periods of time and saw some really negative effects of that. We know in general, though, so we know that when you're isolated and you're not communicating with other people, you're not interacting with other people, that's decreasing your brain stimulation, right? You don't have to think, you don't have to think of what you're going to say next or whatever that is. It decreases your brain stimulation and your perception. So exercise, if you add exercise to your diet, if you will, that can decrease your risk for depression, anxiety, and anger, which we just talked about. It can help improve your independence and your self-efficacy. And so we like the term self-efficacy. I don't know when that term was coined, but it's become fairly popular in the exercise and physical therapy literature in the past 10 or 15 years. And so self-efficacy is that belief in yourself that you can do things, right? And so you might say, oh, I can't exercise. I've never been an exerciser, right? And that's tough. If you've never been one of those people that like to exercise, it's hard to start. I've never been an exerciser, and now I'm older, and now my knee hurts, and I get tired, and things like that. Well, by just getting out there and starting exercise, which I'll talk about in a little bit, you can improve your self-efficacy, or your belief that you can do it. All right. And that goes not just for exercise, that goes for any part of life, that self-efficacy piece, right? We wanted to talk, just mention here, exercising in groups and how that can be a really strong social support, and how it's also going to decrease the isolation, right? And so you can exercise at home, certainly, and there's nothing wrong with that. I exercise alone at home, but I do make sure I get out during the rest of the day and I'm interacting with people. But exercising in groups, it's kind of they kind of keep you honest, right? And so you get to know your group, and you're not there one day and you show up 2 days later and they're like, hey, Randy, where were you? We missed you. Where have you been? And so it's a little bit of accountability, which really helps in sticking to an exercise program, that accountability piece. All right. And we want to put in here, of course, exercise can decrease the risk for falls as well. And so if you have a problem with your balance and things like that, that exercise and increasing your strength and challenging your balance can help decrease your risk for falls. Next slide. All right, so how do you get started? It's never too late. So, I know some of you were preaching to the choir here. You already exercise, you do a ton of things. Marvin, I happen to know you do a ton of things. Randy, I backpacked for 6 days with him, right? A couple of years ago. So I know he's active as well. And many of others of you. Chris Grella is here. There's just some of you I happen to know. Chris Grella, I know that he never stops moving. In fact, the pickleball courts are probably calling your name right now, Chris. And so, yeah, and that's wonderful. But there's some of you who maybe, I exercise a little bit, or I know I've never been that exercise person. And how do you start? Because it can be kind of intimidating, especially when you see lots of people exercising. And so there's some very easy ways to get exercising. One is partner with a friend, right? Contact someone and say, hey, you want to go for a walk? And that's it. That's exercise. Anytime you're moving, it's better than sitting on the couch, right? And I put something about the couch down there. I was talking to a gentleman yesterday. I volunteer with the adaptive ski program up at Wyndham, and I was talking to a gentleman, 73 years old, who looks amazing. I thought he was like definitely early 60s, and he's a double amputee from the Vietnam War, believe it or not. And he teaches up at the adaptive ski program at age 73. I was up there yesterday and this morning actually doing some training sessions, and there was a lot of gentlemen there. There were 8 or 10 gentlemen there, all of them in their 70s, and all of them teaching adaptive skiing. All of them keeping active. And I'm just so impressed. There were a few women, only a handful of women, a lot of men, but so impressed with, I'm like, wow, he's 75. If he can do it, I can do it, at my age. And the 73-year-old double amputee, I'm like, Rose, what's wrong with you? You better get your butt out there, right? So you can do this. Partner with a friend, connect with programs in the community. You already are connected with a program in the community. You're connected to the JCC. All right. They have so many programs going on there, and they have anything from low level to higher level to challenge you more, and just dip your toe in the water. All right. And go out of your comfort zone. I have to say, I was out of my comfort zone the past 2 days doing this ski training with children with ADD. I don't work with them and it's uncomfortable for me because I'm not good at it yet, so you just have to go out of your comfort zone sometimes and try something new. Another easy way is just walk your dog. I mean, if you have a dog, there's a built-in excuse right there. The dog has to get outside. All right. And so at least twice a day, morning and evening, get them out. And hopefully you'll stick in a couple walks in the middle of the day if you're around. If you like technology, use activity trackers or phone apps. That works for some people. I don't happen to use them, but it's very motivating for some people. You can look at your phone app and you can say, wow, this past week, I walked 3 miles or 8 miles or whatever it was. And I did it at this pace, this fast pace, or I was much faster this week than I was last week. So if technology is your thing, go ahead and use some of those activity trackers or the phone apps there. And there's hopefully plenty of people in your lives that can help you with that technology. Because I know I don't use them, probably because I don't know how to use them. But yeah, I won't go into that anymore. Anyway, vary your routine. Add music to your routine. I will put in my my headphones and listen to music as I'm walking. What you can do is you pick music that's at that has a bass beat, right? An underlying beat that is faster than how you usually walk, for instance, right? And then you try to keep up with that beat. And actually marching music is very good for that, all right? And so you put on some John Philip Sousa and you get out there and you try to walk to that beat. And that can help increase how fast you're walking, all right? So anytime you're challenging yourself even more. So now you're off the couch, you are out walking, all right? Well, now let's make it faster. So when you walk your dog, it's hard to walk fast, but at least that got you out the door. And now you're like, wow, it's really nice out. Even in the evenings in the winter, as long as you're dressed right, the winter evenings are beautiful and when they're still and not raining like tonight. But they're beautiful to get out there, even for 15 minutes, just kind of freshen you up a little bit. You can keep a weekly diary. Sometimes that works for some people. They write it down. And I used to do that actually for years. I did that, how far I ran that day. And, and I would look back and say, wow, okay. And I was looking for consistency for me. And that helped me keep going. No time. I mean, everyone's busy, right? Well, build in exercise throughout your day. And we call these, and I do this a lot. And now they coined a term for it. I don't know how long ago they did that, but exercise snacks, right? So think of like, if you're snacking food throughout the day, how about if you snack exercise throughout the day? So if you get up in the morning and you go to brush your teeth, maybe do 5 short squats. Bend your knees a little bit, come back up, brush, do it while you're brushing your teeth, some short squats. There you go. You just got some thigh and butt exercise in there. Or raise up on your toes. All right, do some heel raises while you're brushing your teeth or while you're doing the dishes at the sink or at a commercial. If you're watching the news at night and you love that, right? Well, on every commercial, do a little bit of an exercise. Stand up and do these little squats. Stand up and do your heel raises. Maybe just reach out front or reach up to the ceiling, get some stretching in. So it's a very if you think of it this way, a painless way to build an exercise throughout your day. Take the stairs, not the escalator or the elevator. Take the stairs instead. Don't park so close to the shopping center or something. Park farther away from the shopping center. So you get an extra 150 feet that you're walking into the store. And again, painless, right? You don't even notice that you're doing it. And so these, 150 feet, that adds up. If you're adding 150 feet 3 times a day when you're going to the grocery store or to the mall or something like that. So those are some ideas right there. So don't get hung up on whether you're doing the right thing, because that can keep you on the couch. And this gentleman yesterday, the 73-year-old, the bilateral amputee, I said, I was just talking to him a little bit about it. And he said, and I said, you look amazing. He said, well, I'm fortunate, there you go. Right. And he said, I keep my weight down. And for amputees, that's really important to keep their weight down. He said, I keep my weight down. I watch what I eat very closely. And he said, I stay away from the couch. is what he told me. This is just yesterday, and that's why I put that in there. He stays away from the couch because once you sit on that couch, it's hard to get up. So you sit down at 6 o'clock at night after dinner to watch the news. Then you're sitting at 5 o'clock at night and then 4 o'clock at night because it's getting dark out now, things like that. Be very mindful of your activity level. Try to stick in activity throughout your day, and don't just end your day with that 3 hours possibly of sitting in front of the TV or the computer or even a book. I mean, a book is great, right? But, you know, take breaks from the book. Every chapter, when you finish a chapter, stand up and do some squats, some stretching or something like that. All right. So don't feel like you have to do anything really specific. Just get out there and move. Any movement is better than no movement. All right. So how about you guys who are already exercising? How do you bring your exercise to the next level? And for some of you, these hints aren't going to help because you already brought your exercise to the next level. But one of the things, but there's a few things that you can do. So we know, so there's a way physiologically to challenge yourself or bring yourself to the next level. So for instance, you can increase the level of resistance on your stationary bike. All right. So if you like to ride your bike, your stationary bike, well, increase the resistance a little bit. All right. That's going to make it harder. You're challenging yourself. If you're walking for exercise, walk a little bit faster. The best pace to walk to burn calories, which a lot of us want to burn calories, and it's good to keep the weight off, right? And to challenge yourself is to walk at a fast enough pace that you feel like you want to run because it's going to be more comfortable to run. But don't stay at that. It's kind of an awkward pace that it's pretty fast and you're about to start a jog, but don't start the jog. That actually, it burns a lot of calories to do that because it's not really a smooth walking pattern. So that's one way. So you say, oh, I walk 4 times a week with friends, no problem. All right. Well, maybe try to increase that pace just a little bit. And if you're running, of course, you can increase your pace of your running if you can. If you're walking already and you're doing a pretty good pace, and if you can jog a little bit, maybe you're going to intersperse some walking, or if you're going around your neighborhood. I live in blocks in my neighborhood. So I could do 2 blocks of walking, 1 block of jogging, or really fast walking, and then go back to my regular pace of walking. So there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of sneak in some challenges to your exercise and up your exercise. If you're doing weight training, of course, increase the weights, right? Increase the repetitions of what you're doing. Give yourself less rest in between exercises. If you're doing some strengthening exercises, for instance, don't, you used to rest for 30 seconds in between. Well, don't only rest for 15 seconds. All right. So all of that is going to help challenge you. So the other way that you can help, I'm going to go back, Shana, I'm still on that one. Yeah, I'm still talking a lot on that one. But thanks. So another way, so that's a way to kind of increase the physiological challenge to your exercise routine. But how do you increase the cognitive challenge? Right. And so what research has found is that if you combine an aerobic exercise with a cognitive task or a thinking task, right? When we talk cognitive, we're basically talking about thinking. So with a thinking task, if you combine those together, then you get more increases in BDNF, right? And that BDNF is going to help increase and make stronger the connections in your brain. Your brain is all about connections, all right? All the different parts of the brain are connected in there by neurons and things like that. So it helps increase those connections to strengthen those connections. And when you increase and strengthen those connections, your brain is healthier, better memory, easier to learn, all the things that Shana talked about before. So how can you do this? All right, so let's see. If you like to ride that stationary bike that we talked about, as you're riding, maybe go through the alphabet and think of a word for every letter of the alphabet. If some of you might remember when you were young, you used to bounce a ball and you would go through the alphabet and say a name for every every letter. And every time you did that, you would bounce the ball under your leg. At least I did. I don't know if you guys did, but it would bounce and I'd say, my name is Amy. My husband's name is Bob. And so now I'm trying to think of names in that instance, but any word that starts with A, B, C, D, E, and on. Or you can start at Z and go backwards. And that's even harder, right? So it's okay. Realize that it's okay to have it be hard. Like if I'm trying to think of, okay, Z and Zach is a name. What comes before Z? Y, right? And so you might struggle a little bit, but the struggle is good because when you struggle, you're building those new connections. All right. So you want to struggle. I remember when I was going for my higher degree, I would always be rubbing my temples because my brain just hurt. It just hurt because I was thinking so much, but the upside was that I was building new connections. So let's hope it protects me a little bit because my dad had dementia, but hey, you never know. Some other ideas. So you're walking, you're out for a walk. How about you count backwards from 100 by sevens? 100.
Why is it always sevens?
You know what?
So hard, sevens.
Hi, Sarah.
Hello.
We use sevens in a lot of the cognitive tests. And I don't know, and actually that's a good question. I don't know why they chose sevens. We also use threes. Three's a little too easy. Seven, 5 is too even, right? That's
Right.
easy, 195, 90. 6, maybe a little bit hard. I'm going to guess that they chose 7 because it is that much harder, because it is. And I was like, okay, do I have to subtract sevens from 100 in front of everybody here? Because I'm probably going to do terrible. 100, 93, 64. I think 70. And so it's hard, right? To
Yes,
do that.
good. I'm glad I find it difficult. I've always found it difficult.
Oh, I have always, and you, and a lot of you guys who I know, I've tested you guys on this all the time, right? And I always say no judging. Well, no judging because I'm not good at it either. So yeah, good question, Sarah. But so there, add that to your walking, right? How about if you're swimming? Maybe you love to swim. Name as many types of flowers or trees that you can think of as you're swimming. Something like that. So anything to get your brain going. If you're walking with somebody, maybe recite a best loved poem to a partner, to the one person you're walking with. Okay, I'm going to do, 2 trees diverged in the wood, and who wrote that? And let me see if I can remember the words, And so just if you're trying to pull things out of your head, you're building those connections. So, okay, it's Robert Frost. Who remembers the exact name of that poem, right? And so I have to pull it out of my head. So I'm struggling a little bit, but the struggle is good. That's building those new connections. All right. And so what is the name of that poem? Anybody?
No idea.
Two
talking
roads
about
diverged
poem?
in a wood, and I took the one less traveled, or something like that. I love that one, and I should know it better. Okay, I got to learn that. So anyway, other ways and so that's kind of increase the cognitive load. We call it a cognitive load on your exercise. But even if you just increase the number of hours that you're physically active during the day, gardening, light hiking, heavy hiking. Some of you, I know a lot of you guys are hikers out there. Use this again. I said, use the stairs, not the elevators, but just stay off the couch. And I'm going to remember from Dave yesterday telling me, he said, the couch is your enemy. The couch is your enemy. All right. You can sit on it sometimes, but not too much. Next slide, please, Shana. All right. We're on to summary. So just summarizing what we were talking about is that regular exercise can not only improves your physiological health. We know what it helps our hearts and our lungs, helps keep our weight down, keep our muscle tone, keep us strong, right? But it also can improve learning, memory, sleep, your mood. And it does that by changing our brain chemistry, which helps build new connections, all right? And this can all of this results in that positive impact on your brain health. And remember, it is never too late to get started. Just get off the couch and go for a walk. That's all it takes. Next slide. I think we just have a thank you.
That's it.
Thank you very much. And some references, if we want to show those. Information is referenced. All right. All right. So we have, and Pam, do we have till 5 o'clock, I think?
We do, absolutely. So please.
Little over 10 minutes for any questions. You can unmute yourself if you're on the computer, the bottom left-hand corner. If you're on that iPad, it might be on the top. Just kind of hover on top and it should appear. Just press the microphone again. The red line should leave it. And if you're having trouble with that, you can, oh, I see the chat.
Yeah. There was just one comment in the chat saying from Steve saying Box Teddy is great. I do it on Long Island. So
yeah, and so boxing and whether it's Rocksteady Boxing, that's a program that's very specific to people with Parkinson's disease, but any even just boxing, and there's plenty of gyms out there, right, that have boxing, because in boxing, and my boxers here can attest to the fact I'm really not good at the boxing part of the boxing class that I help with, but because you have to remember these combinations and they're calling out, okay, do combination A, and I'm going, what's combination A? And then they even tell me the combination and I can't even remember it. So I'm struggling in boxing because I'm like, okay, is it a jab cross hook or is it a hook jab cross? And I'm just like, oh my God. But it's okay that I'm struggling because I'm building those new brain connections while I'm doing exercise. So yes, Steve, totally agree.
So I have a question. You might have addressed it before. Could you hear me?
Yeah, Sarah, sure.
So I'm just wondering, when I do the bike, the Peloton, my right leg is always feels like it hurts. And I can't stand up. Like I used to be not professional, but I used to ride a lot. So now my right leg gets more tired. Does anyone have that? Like one leg is not as strong as the other kind of thing?
Does it also affect your gait when you walk?
Not really. I mean, I could walk pretty fast, so it doesn't really affect my walking at all or hiking.
Oh, it doesn't. So, and it's interesting, Sarah, because on a bike, you wouldn't think that because a bike is very cyclical and very rhythmic, right? And a lot of times you can use your other leg to help. So sometimes it's even, but we do find in some people that there is unevenness even on a bicycle. And so what you might be able to do is use that left leg to help, kind of keep that rhythm going. And also just really think, pull up with my right leg, push down, pull up, push down, pull up, push down, and things like that. And that may help, kick that leg in a little bit to keep up.
And strengthen it over time because you're going to be relying more on that leg than the other leg.
Yeah.
Well, I do strength exercises, but it's just disturbing.
I'm sure, because I know how active you are.
Does it affect you when you push down and pull up?
No, I'm able to push down and pull up quite fine, but it just gets tired. Whereas my other leg does not get really as tired.
Got to do with the disease mostly.
Yeah.
Yes.
It could.
I have a question, not really a question, more of a statement. What I've noticed when I have more intense workouts, I burn through my drugs quicker.
Ah, okay. And so we have, we have a mixed group here. And so some of the
Attendance.
things we're hearing from you guys are a little bit more specific to Parkinson's disease. And so you guys have a lot, you've got to pay attention to what you eat and your medications and your timing and a lot of things, which if you want to look at a little bit of a silver lining, at least it's taxing your brain a little, right? Building new connections. Always trying to find a silver lining. Shana, you want to change the
Yeah,
view?
I'm trying to show the chat.
Oh,
But it only says it says show chat previews, but doesn't.
there was only one comment in
there's
the
only one in
chat.
there. But you can even get out of slideshow mode.
Yeah.
And we could see each other.
That might be easier.
There you go. There's everybody.
There's everyone.
Great. What else? Other questions that you have on these, either maybe, what's going on with that brain stuff that Shana was talking, a lot of what she was talking about can be a little bit thick. If you have any questions on that.
So no nutrients Nothing? I mean, what you told me was so good. I really appreciate it. But should we be taking vitamins or anything to
Mm.
enhance this?
I mean, vitamins always help in terms of brain chemistry, but this was more specifically just how our natural brain chemistry works and how exercise can impact that brain chemistry in terms of rebuilding those connections between our nerves. There is research out there on how supplements also help rebuild our nerves. But not related, some related to exercise, but I'm not really an expert on that.
Yeah, and I think basically, and Shana, correct me if you're wrong, is that it's you're talking about good nutrition, making sure, go to that food pyramid, which I think they may have changed a little bit, but just making sure you're eating healthy so that your brain is getting good nutrients from the food that you're eating.
Thank you.
Yes. And I think good hydration too.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm going to take a sip.
Yeah. Well,
That's
hydration
good.
also helps with your blood flow also because the
Right.
more water volume you have in your body, the more blood your heart can pump out, which helps the amount of blood that's getting to the brain tissue.
Yes. I'm sure. Is there a difference? Because I think men generally, especially I don't drink enough water. So, who knows?
No, I think everybody, no one drinks enough water.
No. I say I carry this water bottle around with me all day long and I barely finish it. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
You can drink too much water.
you
No,
can.
it's good.
You can drink
much.
too much, but I
Yeah,
think more people
yeah.
have problem with not drinking enough.
My brother did that. He retarded his immune system from it,
Oh,
Mm.
wow.
where he ended up with bronchiectomy.
Oh, wow. Okay, boy, he must have been drinking a lot of water.
A
Mhm.
lot,
Yeah.
like
I
2
do have to
gallons a
say-
day.
Just really quick, my daughter is a nurse and she does travel nursing. She went for a job interview and of course they have to do drug testing and she's very healthy and eats healthy. She's like a health nut, right? And so she went in, she failed the drug test twice
Wow.
because she drank so much water. They thought she was hiding something
Oh.
and
Really?
trying to dilute her urine so they wouldn't catch anything. I was just like,
Oh,
oh my,
Oh
God,
my
she never got the job. Yeah, it was very kind of funny. But anyway, she's not a drug addict, I swear. But I see Alicia. Yes, you're welcome, Alicia. And so that's great. Yeah, we're just, again, trying to give you some background information and hopefully for those of you who are not exercising to motivate you, really just get out for a walk. And it's a great way to get started and to join, and you already are kind of joining your community groups. So again, preaching to the choir, but grab a friend maybe that isn't joining in the community groups and get somebody else out there and help them as well.
Mhm.
great. Appreciate it.
And I'm going to do a quick little infomercial. We do have an exercise, an in-person at the JCC Tai Chi exercise planned to begin on February 3rd. So
Mhm.
look out for further information so you can register. Our winter program guide is about to publish, and just look to our website in the next few days. There'll be more classes, and it's a great way to maybe kick off all the good information we've gotten today, and exercise with others, so to strengthen those social connections. And we'll make sure you hydrate, but not too much if you're going for a job interview.
That's right. Remember that.
And I see we have one of our instructors on. Hi, Dr. Pazer. Yes. So Brain Fitness,
Oh.
some of you have been joining
Hi,
us
everyone.
on Monday. Thank you for coming on. And that will be continuing in the winter as well. And
Great. Join her. Try it, right? Just try it. If you're not doing exercise now, and maybe you'll love it, maybe you won't. That's okay.
And Dr. Pacer, maybe we can take a little exercise break
That's
during
true.
our hour.
That would be fine.
Yeah.
Or at least have people use their other hand, their non-dominant hand. That
Yeah.
makes our brains go crazy.
Really good
Yeah.
advice.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great exercise.
Yeah, yeah, my left hand isn't even part of my body. I don't,
Brush your teeth with your other hand. It really works.
yeah, while you're doing heel raises.
Exactly.
Squats.
I heard that when you
Exactly.
said it.
Up.
And
I'll
then,
be doing that tomorrow.
All right.
but we really appreciate, this has been just wonderful. And, you know, if anybody else has any other questions before we end. I think you've covered it all.
Right.
So I just want to wish everybody a very happy holiday and all the best in the new year. And we will be returning with another webinar hopefully in January, and look for them each month.
Great.
I gotta
Thank
go
you.
drink
Very
a bottle of
much.
water. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Again.
Bye, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye,
James,
everyone.
hi, James.
Bye.